Hello, and welcome to In Sequence, a comics podcast for everyone. I'm your host for this week, Robin, and with me as always are your wonderful panelists. Panelists, please say hello.
Hey, I'm Matt.
I'm Jillian.
And I am Scout.
And today we're going to be discussing a manga series called How Do We Relationship by artist and writer Tamifull. So we've read varying amounts of this manga. Some of us have read up to volume 4, but what we're going to be covering mostly today is up through the end of volume 2, which we've all read. So that's chapter 18 as well, if you're reading individual issues. So just to talk a bit about what How Do We Relationship is, this is a yuri manga, meaning it is women loving women. It's a lesbian romance story with some spicier elements. It concerns the story of Miwa and Saeko, two college freshmen who meet on basically their first day of college by running into each other, typical meet cute style. They end up joining the band club together and very quickly becoming friends. And on a night out with the band club, the two have a little bit to drink and drunkenly both confess that they are into women. And kind of because of that coincidence, they just decide to start dating and see how it goes. And the rest of the series is about how it goes. So
that's what you do when you're queer and 18.
True.
Truly it is. So the volumes we've read are like the very beginning of their relationship. It is a bit of the sort of honeymoon phase, plus a lot of the anxieties that come from a very early relationship and an early queer relationship as well between two people who are, exploring their relationship as they explore coming out. So this is a series that I think none of us had really read before. I brought this to the show as that, I'm hosting. This was recommended to me by a friend, by my co-host from Girl Mode, Willa. And I figured this was a good excuse to try reading it. Very curious to hear what other folks think, but I'll just say very quickly, I'm really glad I finally got around to this. I've been enjoying the awkward adventures of these two little lesbians a lot so far. But just opening thoughts, what are people's first impressions about the series from these first two volumes?
Overall, I liked it. I am mostly, though, comparing it in my head to all of the yaoi that I've read because I have never read a yuri, so I don't know what the template for yuri is.
First yuri.
I know like the kinds of templates of yaoi, and so I'm when I'm reading it, that's the filter that it's going through. And it was interesting to me the whole time just being able to say like, okay, what is similar? What is different? Right? A lot of the similarities in like the waves of a relationship and like some of the specific problems that they're dealing with. I don't know. For example, I think it's both very similar to yaoi that I've read, where like queerness and how people are open about that is like that. There's a similarity there, but there's also a difference. Like I feel like these two women in this book are way more open, way more quickly than I'm used to queer characters being in manga. And maybe that's a BL and Yuri thing, but maybe it's just this book. I have no idea. This is literally the first one I've read.
Yeah. I have not read a ton. I mean, like I'm not read a ton of comics in general. I've read some before. This does feel quite quick, which is one of the things that I actually really have been enjoying about it, that there isn't, well, we'll get into it. I don't want to, everyone can give their risks, but I have enjoyed how quickly they just kind of settle that issue to be like, we're gay, let's be gay together and like move on from that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jill. I really liked that. To me, that, I haven't read any, like, I don't think I've read much yuri manga, but I've definitely read like web comics and other short form like works that do focus on lesbian or women loving women relationships. And to me, I also enjoyed like how quickly they just kind of get that out of the way. There was no like, but I'm a girl, I can't like girls kind of stuff. And I read farther than the rest of you guys. So as I continued, I was starting to get a little bit more bristly towards some of the plot points. That's the word.
Oh, interesting.
But for the first two volumes, I really was like, this is very cute. This is very like, it was adorable. I really like the art style too. I think it's very cute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really charmed by the art style as well. And as far as like Yuri versus yaoi was like what Matt was talking about a little bit, especially, I found the thing that stuck out to me the most, and I haven't read a ton of Yuri, so I can't say that I have a huge pool of knowledge from which to work. But from what I have read versus the yaoi that I've read, the thing that I've actually noticed, even more specifically than like how gay guys communicate versus how gay women communicate, is more directly just like the tropes and common archetypes for male characters and female characters, and the way that men and women are written. For example, I think that Miwa, especially in How Do We Relationship, reminds me a lot of, in her worst moments, in the moments where I find myself the most frustrated with her, which overall, I should say, I opened very negatively there. I also really had a fun time reading this, and am having a great time with it overall. But she reminds me oftentimes of the things that I find the most frustrating about female protagonists in straight romance manga that I have also dipped my toes into, in ways that I might expand upon a little later as well.
That's a good call. I've read a little bit of straight romance manga, and that is a very apt comparison.
Yeah. We all kind of mentioned how quickly they get into this relationship, and I think that's one of the things that sort of circles around a couple of things that I like about this, which is one, they're starting college, so they're still very young. They're like college freshmen. But I feel like a lot of romance manga that we see is like high school or like sometimes even younger. So there is a lot of that stuff, especially when it's queer romance, of being like, is it okay if I like a girl? And these are both women who've like been through that phase and be like, yeah, it's fine that I like girls.
It's other people that are the problem.
Exactly. Like, I really actually did like that a lot, that it was never like, there's never a hint of like shame around their own sexuality. It's just fear about whether other people will be shitty to them because of it. There's a line from Miwa earlier, like pretty early on, one of the 1,000 screenshots that I took of this. It's like very quickly after they first confess to each other. She says, deep in my heart, I know it's normal that I love women, but I just don't have the courage to tell anyone, which is just like, yeah, that feels very real. It feels very much more relatable, I think, especially to like probably folks like us, than the is it okay if I'm gay kind of thing. Like, I think we're well past that point in our lives, and it's you know, for anyone as an adult, I think the concern is definitely more of like, will my friends be weird about this? And the answer in some cases in this book is yes, but in kind of a cute way instead of a really shitty way.
Oh man, this makes me really want to know more about what Julian read, because I think that is the direction that some of the stuff that I was concerned about coming out of Volume 2 could go. I just want to say, somebody mentioned art style. My favorite thing about the art style is how the artist draws lucha.
Oh yeah.
Big boy lucha.
I was gonna say Rika is the way I like. I just like how Rika's always got the little cat woo face. She's so mischievous.
Rika's great.
Lucha's one of the band members, and he always has like a teddy bear face. Like it's very intentionally like cute animal drawing, but also like absolutely just like the kind of guy that I would go for. So that's part of that too. It's like, you mean the thicker guy with earrings? Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, it's such an expressive art style. Like I really love that. Like their faces are so expressive, and even just like their actions. Like there are so many panels of just like you can just feel the motion in them.
The hair especially like feels really like characters with longer hair, just the hair feels so flowy and really fun.
I feel like there's a lot of really, really good work with very simple shapes. Like it is closer to American cartoon than a lot of manga that you see in the genre, the romance genre spaces in general, and I like that a lot.
There were moments in some of like the very simple panels that it reminded me of like Calvin and Hobbes, or like a newspaper comic in the sort of like roundness of it that I really appreciated. There's also something with the simple shapes you mentioned. There's a lot of moments where if someone is doing like a shocked face, they kind of do a Kermit the Frog face.
Yes,
where their mouth just like opens in a triangle. Very funny.
Face. The triangle face is so good.
While we're on art, there were some things brought up earlier. Might as well just get it out of the way, and then we can go back into more plot stuff. I think I speak for everyone when I say Scout. You must tell us about the feelings circles.
Okay.
I must know.
So I messaged the pod chat earlier, and I said I was doing my research, and it was my note that I took that said I want to talk about feelings circles. This is something that I first really paid attention to when I was reading a manga that I have mentioned before, where this like visual cue is used quite often, and that's in Sasaki and Miyano. But after I started noticing it in Sasaki and Miyano, I began being conscious of it and noticing it in a lot of yaoi manga and in romance manga in general. I'm going to send a screenshot to chat.
And I will put this in the chapter images. So if you have a podcast app that supports that, I'll make sure that you can see the thing that Scout is telling us about.
And that's these, which are sort of these circles that are kind of akin to bubbles in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the ways that I found them sort of described online when I was trying to look into this phenomena was the phrase, there's an entry on TV Tropes called love bubbles, which I don't like, but...
Yeah, that's not...
and the way that I see these sort of spoken about when I was doing research earlier, some other ways that I saw them described on places like visuallanguagelab.com and japanesestudies.org.uk was fuzzy circles. They are also sometimes synonymous with flowers appearing in the background of a shot, though I would argue that those are used in two different ways. But the thing that I've noticed, the way that I see it used more often for me, is not necessarily just a general feeling of affection or to imply a dreamlike state, which is how it tends to be described in the sources that I could find, but more when a character is realizing they're having a specific emotion, like when something clicks in their brain. And I want really badly, I think I might become a scholar for these, because I want to know where this trend began. I want to know who was the first mangaka to use it. How was it popularized? Because it is one of those things akin to black gutters, which is something that I think we only talked about in our test episode. I don't remember if it made it into any of the episodes that are going to be published. But the concept of black gutters on a page in manga specifically often being used to denote a dream sequence or a memory or a flashback. And so I love things like this that seem to be ubiquitous across genre for use to denote something specific and evoke a specific emotion or convey something to the reader. But they are done in that really, they show up in a way where it's never explained directly to the reader. It is just something that if you pick up on it, you notice it, and then you never stop noticing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, after you mentioned it, I was like going back and looking through, and I kept seeing them there. I was like, oh, those are the feeling circles. Mm-hmm. Now I know.
It's funny. I've seen them used, now that I know what you're talking about, I've seen them used before. And it is almost always on these like big empty pages, which are also used for the thing you're talking about. I've actually noticed manga more generally is willing to let advancement of the plot, and I'm being very wishy-washy with the term plot, be just the character working through something in their head. And like other comics forms can do that, but it's a thing that I notice that manga is particularly good at. And maybe it's because like I read a lot of romance manga and maybe it's specific to that, but I don't know, the one that I can't shut up about, Blue Period, does that a ton as well. And that's just about like being an artist. And because of that, you get these like basically white pages with just text on them that are meant to be like internal monologues, really important to the character. And then in some of those cases, that's where you're seeing these feeling circles you're talking about.
Yes.
Another sort of like emotional motif I noticed coming through is this happens. It seems to happen more and more in the later chapters that maybe we didn't all read. But like I mentioned earlier, this is a story that revolves around them, like the two main characters joining this like band club. So there's lots of music in it. And there's lots of sound. maybe this is not as uncommon as I'm feeling like it is, but it felt like as I was reading this, it was giving me so many sound cues compared to like the other things we've read so far. And one of the things that kept coming up was they would do like a da-dum kind of sound effect for drums that would also be the sound of a person's heartbeat that kept coming up.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of like heart pounding. There's lots of like little sound effects like that also communicate like the emotion of something without having to say anything. And I just thought that was really cool for a story that is about like in many ways like music and sound to like convey it that way. That I don't know. Once I noticed it, it was something that I like kept noticing.
Yeah. I read a little bit of the book Pink Heart Jam, which has a really similar concept in the like band club, like first year of college thing. And so I kept getting some of that confused, but it does a lot of similar things where like there's a character who is, attracted to someone in their band, and then they'll kind of blend the music sounds as well. It's a cool trick, especially because I'm like used to reading like ba-thump, right? Like specifically that to represent heartbeats in manga, and to see it like represented differently because it's a musical thing was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I'm mad because now I'm furiously seeing if I can find the any of it in Japanese, so I can see if the heartbeat sound effect and the drum sound effect also match in Japanese and don't just match in English, but I can't find it off the top of my head in the middle of the recording.
That's fine. There's another art thing I want to talk about, but maybe to get into that first, we should talk a little bit more about the characters. I know, like Jill, you mentioned the sort of like the tropey sort of ways that men and women are written, and maybe that queer relationships are written about. So I'm curious about how people felt about like Miwa and Sai, and predominantly, but also like the background characters. Like, do we like the way that they're using those tropes? Do they feel like real or likable or interesting people to us?
I'm going to say something that's perhaps controversial.
But is it brave?
Thank you. Yes. I didn't particularly care character-wise for either of our main girls. Simply because this is so mean of me. As someone who is in a like steady, healthy relationship, I was just like, oh my God, can we please just talk? Like, can we please? You guys are driving me crazy, like making yourselves jealous and doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, please, we gotta just talk. So I was being very like, person who has lived life looking at these very young very young adults and just being like, you stupid kids.
I feel like that's me in every romance manga, though. I'm always like, these are just idiots. They just need to talk.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do, though. Like, I think why it works for me is that they do. It's like the storyline tends to be like they need to have a talk and they put it off a little bit and then they have the talk and it's fine. Like, the thing that kills me, this is something that I think you've talked about or at least alluded to before, Matt, is when it's like they need to talk and it's like 45 pages of it. Whereas here, it makes it feel more like real relationship drama to me, where it's like, yes, you do have those parts in your relationship where you're like, no, I'm not jealous. It's totally fine. And then when you say that, you immediately start becoming really jealous of your partner.
I did appreciate that, like, the miscommunication was not extended.
Yeah. Like, for me, I actually feel like it didn't feel like it was adhering to too many, like, tropes like that. Like, I think the tropes that kind of pop to mind when we talk about, like, Yuri is things like you mentioned, where it's like, is it okay to have these feelings? How could I ever confess these feelings without them, like, being driven away or whatever? And I like that wasn't the case here. But that also Miwa and Sai feel very different. Yes. Where, like, when they first meet, like, Saeko is immediately just like, I need to fuck this woman immediately or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And Miwa, immediately takes her a while. Like, yeah.
Down bad.
She was down bad so
fast. And you know what? I can respect it.
She tells her that's some mad cleavage.
And I appreciate it. Like, there's so little representation for horny women in, like,
I agree.
Fiction. I love that she's there. Like, yeah, I really appreciate that about them.
Yeah, I'll say I actually like them both a good amount. I think characters that I enjoy reading Saeko way more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, like, the problems that Miwa's dealing with, both around like how open do I want to be about this relationship, and also just like sexually, how comfortable am I, felt really relatable and interesting and real. Like people have those problems every day. But the person that I just had more fun reading was Saeko. For the reasons that you said.
Yeah.
No, Miwa was definitely relatable, and that's probably why I was like, I don't want to read this. This is taking me back, and I don't like it.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, the relationships with sex are very interesting. I know you mentioned this, wanting to talk about this in more detail too, Matt, where I just thought it was so fascinating, this idea, like you have somebody who's clearly like much more experienced in Sai and who's less experienced in Miwa. And there is that tension of like, I want to show this person that I have affection for them, but I don't feel like I'm ready to go that way. There is one of my favorite things is at the end of, is it actually the end of volume 1 or volume 2? Yeah, okay, volume 1 into volume 2. So the end of, there's one of the conflicts of volume 1 is Sai really wants to have sex with Miwa, and Miwa is kind of nervous because she like hasn't been with a woman before, and it's just, you know, it makes her uncomfortable to think about these things or whatever. And so volume 1 ends with them finally going like, okay, we're gonna have sex. So they're like in this room, and Sai's like, I promise I'll be gentle, and Miwa's like, okay, turn off the lights. And it's this very like, I don't know, kind of like emotional moment. And then the first page of the next volume is them in bed and Saeko saying, how many times do I gotta do you before you're satisfied? And then it's just like Miwa just like wants to fuck nonstop. And that is like one of those things that feels so real of like, that's like a stage of so many relationships where it's like, you're nervous, you're not sure you're ready if you want to sleep with this person. And then you do, and it's like, oh, this is all I want to do now. Like there are little things like that I feel like really feel so real to me.
Yeah. As a person who grew up being told to repress sexuality constantly, the fear of sex leading into ravenous desire for sex was extremely relatable.
Yeah, definitely.
The way that this book handles sex generally was the biggest thing that I took from the book. I think it is unique among romance manga that I've read that they talk about sex so openly, but it is still a realistic depiction of sex and not like a voyeuristic depiction of sex.
It's not like straight up porn, but like it is very clear that is something that they are like not shying away from.
Exactly. And like they're both into, right? Like I don't need, like, I feel like sometimes when people complain about the way that sex is represented and stuff, what they're complaining about is like weird puritanical things. I don't need these people to be in like a committed relationship or whatever. That's not the thing I'm talking about. Like you want to fuck, do it. That's great. The thing that I need is for it to feel like these people are real and they actually do want to have sex with each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's missing. And I thought it was really refreshing to see it be a topic that was brought up so often and still feel like people genuinely into each other.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like anyone is like talking anyone into anything. Like Saeko is like very clearly way more like ready for it, but then that becomes not a thing of like, that becomes a conflict because she wants to be a good person to Miwa, not because she just wants sex.
And I was like super worried that it was going to turn into, Scout and I literally just had this conversation like 2 days ago about a different thing of like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, she really wants sex, so I need to do this in order to keep our relationship. It's more of, I also want sex, but I'm scared as hell.
Yeah.
And there are lines in here where Saeko was very specifically like, I'm not here to do anything that you don't want to do. I'm not, we can leave right now, which was nice to have about it.
Jill, you and I have both read a little later on too, where this stuff gets even more complicated because I guess to go a little bit into volume 3, I think is where this comes up. There comes a point where Miwa is like, this feels a little one-sided. Miwa wants to try topping Saeko because she's like, this feels like I'm taking more from you than I'm giving.
Which is very parallel to their relationship issues as
Totally,
well.
totally. And then it becomes this conversation about like suddenly Saeko is the one who is feeling less up for it and embarrassed because she has it talks a lot about like sexual shame, and especially like women's sexual shame, where she's afraid of looking embarrassing. She's afraid of literally like the sounds she will make if Miwa touches her.
I think something she says is like, I don't want to hear it. It sounds too slutty. Like, I don't want to, like, it grosses me out and turns me off to hear myself, but it turns me on to hear you. And it's just a very interesting dichotomy.
Totally. And I think that's part of what makes it feel real. It's not like the one person is like sex crazed and the one person is shy. It's like, no, like we all have things that we feel weird about with sex. And you know, there's things that many of us feel like more comfortable about or more confident about. And I definitely feel like I've been on both sides of that equation, right? I think a lot of people have, where it's like, there's times where it's like, am I too sex obsessed for my partner? And there's times where it's like, am I too avoidant? You know, am I in the other way? Exactly. Am I too avoidant? So I really like the way that sex begins to characterize these people in a more meaningful way. It's not just a switch that they flip or not. It tells you about something about themselves, the ways that they relate to it, which I really enjoyed. Yeah,
I will say that was definitely one of my favorite, like, even though we read ahead of you guys, that was like one of my favorite parts of this manga, was specifically the way that the nature of their sexual relationship kind of mirrors how they're feeling in their regular relationship, how they feel about themselves. And like, it just makes me think about like, there's always these posts on the internet about like, I can be into the smut and also be doing character development. That's the whole point. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I really enjoy, is that the sex is part of developing their characters. And I really, really appreciated that. I do feel like that is one of those points that got me a little bristly in the aftermath, because it feels like when they kind of are like, we need to talk about things, that is one of the things that does not get brought up. Specifically for Saeko. But that is later on in their relationship problems.
It's interesting because like, I feel like a lot of us have had this experience where you are, for a while, like there's something in a relationship with a person that's just like not getting worked out. You know, it needs to get worked out and it doesn't get worked out. And then there's an intimate moment, whether you have sex or whatever it might be. And the intimacy leads to the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And this book mirrors that so well. Right at the beginning of volume 2, the stuff that you were just talking about, Robin, they have these really frank conversations about like, what is sex even?
Yeah.
Like me was like, does this qualify as sex? Right. And Psycho's like, dude, I don't know. We're women. What what is qualifying as sex? Right. And she's like, she says like, being with you and touching your skin feels really good to me. And I'm like, that's the real shit that is character development that happens in real life.
Yeah.
In those moments of intimacy. And I love that about this book.
Yeah. There is a part where they talk about that directly too, where it's like the more they like, there's something said to the effect of like, the more that they touch each other, the more that they feel their connection is deepening or something like that. There's also, like the idea of the intimacy leading to those conversations. There's another one of these moments where it's like transition from panel to panel that like had me fucking cackling. It's like near the end of the last chapter of volume 2, where they're still kind of being a little awkward about sex. Saeko wants to like go to have sex with Miwa. Miwa's being, a little like she's not sure. And Saeko says, sorry, let's just forget it. I don't have the right to be doing that with you now. It's after they've just had a big fight. And she's like, oh, I've hurt her so bad. And Miwa, you see her kind of fidgeting with her fingers. And she says, no, if you want to, then and then cut to the first panel on the next page is just a close-up of Saeko going down on Miwa from Miwa's perspective.
I was like, is this the panel where she's going down on her? This has got to be what this is leading up to.
Such a funny transition. But then that becomes them talking about this issue they just had. Like they didn't feel like they could broach before, and now that they are feeling this intimacy, they can. And it's just like there's so many like transitions between panels like that are so that are so funny, and it is that post-nut clarity. it's so good with stuff like that. Which also, I mean, just mentioned the kind of like Miwa playing with her fingers kind of thing. There's so many little physical details in this book of things like that. Like there's a part where Miwa is in the bath and she's kind of running over some things with her relationship, and she's like grabbing the toes on one hand or on one foot with the toes of the other foot.
Oh yeah.
Or like there's lots of like drawings of like the back of her neck as she's looking down because she doesn't want to look at Saeko. Like so many little physical details like that I thought were so good.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good body language throughout the art in this in these chapters. And then this across this art is really good.
Yeah, yeah. Also, very good part of the art, the fashion. I love the outfits in this series. Everyone's are great. Like Rika, like you mentioned her little like cat smile characterizing her.
Her outfits are
clothes,
so cute.
You know exactly who this girl is. Like it's so good, like the way that happens. But I think like the difference between Miwa and Saeko's fashion choices is so interesting, because Miwa is very like kind of elegant. She's, wearing lots of like long, like flowy dresses.
Her earrings
and
are always like really noticeable and really pretty.
She's matching her accessories perfectly. And then Saeko is wearing like Goodwill t-shirts 24/7.
Saeko also very often is going for the loud button-up overshirt, which as a loud button-up overshirt wearer, I appreciate.
And also her little ska kid shoes. She has the little white and black checkered shoes.
Yes.
I took so many screenshots of, why don't I just start sending some of these to our Discord chat?
Yes.
Some of the t-shirts that Saeko is wearing. This is my favorite one. Her little lobster shirt.
It's really
it just
good.
has 3 lobsters on it. I love it. It's so good. What are some other great ones?
Oh, I took one actually of Miwa, a Miwa shirt, because it says LA, California, Los Feliz. So
Yes, I
was like,
love
oh,
that one too.
Can
Incredible
LA
order to
represent?
put that in. Sorry, here's another one. This is Sai in
Does
a
it say
hoodie.
beer on it?
Yeah,
Is it like the beer
it's a
thing?
picture of a cat and it just says beer underneath of it. It's fantastic. Here's her with one of those loud button-ups with just bunny heads of it. Another one of my favorite is this t-shirt with just pictures of fried eggs all over it.
I love the egg shirt.
Love a ratty t-shirt wearing Queen.
I really think it's funny. One of the guys in the band club at one point is wearing a t-shirt, like a black band t-shirt that says Summer Panic, and it's got like these line bars on it. And I was like, okay, someone is an early 2000s emo fan, because that's 100% a combination of a Paramore t-shirt and Panic at the Disco. As someone who has owned lots of merch from both of those bands.
Amazing. Here's another great one of them. This is them on a date.
Cute.
And another loud button up from Sai with like another good, very elegant, like kind of sheer top from Miwa with these long bands. And there's like a point where where Miwa's like early on is like, I wish that she would dress up for our dates, where like even things like, I like that this manga goes into, they have a really healthy relationship at a lot of times, but they also like part of that healthiness is them acknowledging sometimes to each other, like there's shit about you that really bugs me. And like, I don't know. I find that really, really compelling that they don't have to make everything a fight, but they also don't have to pretend that they don't have differences that like piss each other off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually want to stay on that for a second, because I mentioned at the top that I thought there were some interesting explorations of character archetypes here with Miwa specifically, and that like the whole sometimes you're a pain in the ass, but that doesn't mean I don't love you arc that we have in these early chapters. What did something that I was really pleasantly surprised by, which going back to sort of the way I have the common portrayal of women in the romance manga that I have read, they tend to have a lot of sort of, sometimes it's a clumsy personality, sometimes it's a helpless personality, acting as though they, maybe are a little ditzy, or there is a very much like, I need somebody to help me get through life, sort of an infantilization almost. I don't know, maybe that's too strong of a word, but sort of this helpless, naive nature that can end up going on for a long time and being kind of frustrating because it feels as though it is not giving the character enough credit. And so in the early chapters, there was some stuff with Miwa and she's definitely not the worst example that I've seen of this, but it stuck out to me because of how much complexity there was to a lot of these characters. In the early chapters, it stuck out a little bit of like, oh, we're kind of doing this, this same kind of clueless, or not even clueless, but like helpless, kind of doesn't know how to get around in the world sort of thing with Miwa. And then the narrative sort of directly started addressing that and going like, there are some things about you that are a little bit frustrating about, how you don't trust yourself on things. You don't have the confidence to stand up for yourself in certain situations. We start seeing a progression of Miwa's character as she begins, confronting those things about herself and working through it. And I was like, oh, okay. This I like. This we're seeing the very common character archetype here, and we're seeing it actually grow and progress and evolve out of the starting point, which is not something that you often see. And so I was really pleased by that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that stuff probably stood out less to me because I've just read less manga, so I don't have those examples in my head. But I think you're talking about there's a part where they go to like a music festival or something, and there's some guys hitting on them, and then Saeko has to kind of like step up to be like, hey, leave us alone. And then she's like, you should stand up for yourself, which kind of kicks off like Miwa. There's like a character later on who's being very mean to her in like a band, and she has to like learn to stand up for herself. But yeah, I do like that idea though of like they can talk about things that sort of bother each other about the other partner, and then that allows them to like grow. Like the ways that like a good relationship doesn't just like feel good when you're hanging out with that person. It can kind of like help you like deal with things in your own personality and like grow as a person. And I just thought that was like, that was extremely cool. Very unrelated, but I forgot to post this picture of Sai's very cute underwear with carrots on it.
Yes.
That was another favorite piece of clothing.
Not to sound, but I really did like all of Miwa's like bras and stuff were so cute.
Yes, they were. That's like the kind of attention to detail that's so good, where it's like Miwa would have a really cute bra and Sai would have these like really like dorky panties, like for sure.
I really like, there's even like just a panel of her like unhooking her bra. And I was like, wow, yeah, they get it. Like they're drawing this exactly perfectly. They know what's up.
It's hot. Like that's the other thing about this book. Like it does not like focus that much. Like they talk about sex more than they show sex, I think. But when there are sex scenes, like it's sexy. I don't know. That's like, I guess we're going back to the sex conversation, but I like that it's a very like multifaceted look at it. It's like, yes, these are two girls who like love to fuck each other. And so when we're showing them having sex, like it's going to be hot, it's going to be sexy, but also it's going to be like funny in the way that like sex it's funny. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like there's very like lots of situations where it becomes like, it's not funny that they're having sex, but like that closeness you have with someone leads to a lot of like silliness.
Yeah, there is something inherently silly about it in a lot of ways.
There really is.
That is not, and that that is just the fact of the matter, and it's fun and can be affirming when you see that represented in stuff for sure.
Yeah, where it doesn't have to be all like soft focus and hazy and flower petals on the bed. It's like no, it's just like a thing people do.
Yeah.
I think that comes up a lot also with, and this is maybe again back to the sort of like male and female character tropes, but one of the things that Miwa in particular is kind of nervous about talking to people at first about their relationship and their friends in the band. They're like, will they reject us? Like, will they be grossed out and will they like be homophobic or whatever? And then they tell their friends in the band, and for two of them, this is their reaction. It's how do two girls do it? There's this incredible panel early on of them telling their friend Miku, and he's going, how do two girls, do it? And Saeko is holding like a can of soda or something, and she just squeezes it and it goes shooting out the top. And that's the reaction of two different dudes. They're just like, how though? Like how can you have sex? You're women.
Way it's not like, oh, that's weird. It's like, okay, but like, and it's not even like a way
mechanically
of like titillating. They're like, just how does it work?
Right. It's a genuine, it's like they're, like 7-year-olds and they won't stop asking you questions about like how a truck works,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's cool. Also, like for this, it's like, it's a comic about two women in love. And so I think the naivete of men around what a lesbian relationship is just
really
feels
good.
very, very real here. And of course, that's their first question of these like 18-year-old dudes. Of physically explain it to me. It's just like so funny.
I genuinely really like the bandmates. I gotta shout out my guy Mikun. I'm obsessed with Mikun. He's my favorite side
so
character.
good.
I love him so much. I imprinted on him as soon as he said the line, because I've built my identity around the times that girls have told me you sing so well.
His whole character is just him dealing with breakups.
I know.
Yes.
He's just a baby boy. Yeah, I really loved their bandmates. I just think those guys are, they're so fun because as soon as like they kind of, get over their initial like, well, how does it work? They're just, they're just pals. They're just friends. They just kind of worry about like, hey, is this relationship going to like affect the band in a normal, relationships affect rock bands all the time kind of way.
Yeah, I really like the bandmates. I think the only one I just, whenever he's in a panel, I'm just like a little annoyed by is Saruta.
Yes.
I am worried about, I think his arc from where I was in the second volume could go one of two ways, which is he could be really annoying about it because he still has a crush on Miwa, or he could go the way of like genuinely wants the best for Miwa and is concerned sometimes about like what he sees of their relationship with like Miwa and Saeko and maybe misinterprets things or or does see some moment where Saeko could be doing better or something. I don't know, and I don't know which way it goes.
It's the thing I'm worried about too. I was surprised
do you want to know which way it goes? Like I can tell you.
You can tell me.
You can tell us.
You can tell me.
Yeah, it the second one. He kind of has a conversation with her where he's
good.
Look, I still have these feelings for you. Like, I just want to ask, like, just to make sure, like, no matter what, like, you're definitely just into women. And she's like, yeah, even if I wasn't with Saeko, I would only be dating women. And he's like, cool. I am going to readjust the way that I interact with you. And I'm going to readjust the way that I feel about you in my mind. But I still care about you. Like, I am going to adjust the way that I love you. Basically, he's like, I am not going to like you romantically. I think he says, like, it's not going to be a romantic love. It's going to be a fan love. Where he's like, instead going to be like, just her hype man. And I really liked them having like a positive, like mature conversation about that. I really
That's great.
enjoyed
I'm
it.
so glad that it went that direction and not the worst direction.
Yeah, it could have gone. It could have gone the worst direction. I'm really glad it didn't.
So much worse.
Especially because like in volume 2, we get introduced to Khan, the asshole character.
Yes.
And I was like, it's happening at the same time that the Saruta stuff is being brought up again. And I was like, are we just about to bombard this whole thing with like homophobia? Like Saruta asks the bandmates like how they really feel about Saeko and Miwa at one point, and I was like, what is happening? I can't do this.
I like the con stuff. I don't know if it's going to come back and get resolved because it kind of feels like it gets dropped.
That's what I was wondering too. Like that was one of my bristle points of like plot points that just kind of don't feel like they got a follow through. Like there's definite implications about Khan.
Yes.
But
he was my dude when he's on screen. I go, ugh.
But but there's never any sort of resolution with him. I feel like there is the implication, but sometimes I feel like that is perfectly natural in real life to like, sometimes someone's an asshole and the reason they're an asshole is actually because they are traumatized,
but they're still acting like an asshole.
Yeah, but they're still acting like an asshole and you never actually like learn what the reason is, and that's okay. But in a manga, I'm like, I need to fucking know.
Right. If you're writing fiction,
if
you
you're
do at some point
gonna be telling me that he has
explain
trauma, I need to know a little bit more.
Yeah. Something about him elicits in me the reaction of I want to study him under a microscope, but like not in a good way.
Derogatory.
Derogatory. I want to look at you under a microscope, not complimentary. Just like what's with you? What What's
Well,
with you, dude?
we get some of his backstory, and it's they tell us that like his parents are not happy with him. They don't tell us why. I think the implication is something queer, but
Yeah, if I was getting definite like
My instinct is that too. It's
Yeah,
like internalized homophobia.
misogynistic
gay
because
man?
He was
yeah.
fucking misogynist,
Not an uncommon reality.
homophobic,
Yeah.
misogynistic gay man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was definitely getting like conversion therapy kind of vibes
Yes,
from
totally.
that scene.
And I mean, while it sounds like maybe that plot just got abandoned, I also like, I'm not going to spoil Andor for you guys right here, but I do think Andor did something similar with a character where you got the explanation, but it wrapped that up better without having it reach like a normal narrative conclusion.
Mhm.
And I will just leave it at that.
Okay.
Maybe Robin and I can talk
still
about that
need to
another
watch
time because I
Andor,
can
so
see her.
thank you.
I can
trying
see
to think
her.
of which character you mean. Yeah.
It's the one who we see a lot of backstory to explain their reason for being.
Okay.
Is it a season 2 thing? I still need to watch season 2.
Yes, season 2. I just thought the way they wrapped up that character's story acknowledged that not everything has to be wrapped up in a nice little bow,
hmm
but still let us explore,
Right.
still let us explore things.
Yeah,
Whereas I
for
think,
sure. Like, I don't need Khan's storyline wrapped up in a bow, but I do need there to be more of a, like, something with him.
Yeah, there was really no resolution where, he was kind of like, I hate you.
Yeah, and she was
You
like,
suck. And
okay,
she's like,
cool.
all right.
Just don't go outing us to everyone. And he's just kind of like, whatever. And it's like, that's not a resolution.
Yeah, totally. I will say on Saruta, I do, just to wrap that little loop up, there are a couple panels after they have like that conversation of just him. He's just thinking to himself and he says, it was a good first love, farewell, and thanks, which is like supernaturally healthy for like someone who has a crush on someone who doesn't
that's a little
return it.
unrealistic, sir.
Yeah.
But okay.
But I do like that it doesn't just become like, okay, now my feelings are gone. Where it does come up where he's just like, I have feelings for you. I'm just going to like be a good person about it so we can continue being friends. And I do appreciate that handling of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also would love to briefly shout out their friend Ushi and the chapters that deal with sort of her whole take on love and relationships and do I want a boyfriend? Do I not want a boyfriend? What does it mean to have desires and not?
I couldn't remember if this was before chapter 2 or after, because I was like, if you've read this, I want to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know
So thanks for bringing it up.
if I'm projecting things onto her, but there was a lot of her story that felt very ace-coded to me, and so I got a lot out of that. I really, really enjoyed seeing that other perspective, and I just really like Ushi in general. I think she's a great supporting character, one of my favorites.
I
also only read as much as you did, but I absolutely picked up the same Arrow Ace vibes from.
I literally put in the chat, Arrow Ace Queen, dare I say? Like, she definitely like gives off Ace vibes as someone who like knows a lot of asexual people. Like, it definitely was like reflecting a lot of the like things that I have heard them say. And I'm like, yep, that makes, I think that read is very, very insightful, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if we're reading it that way, do we feel like it lands? Because I feel like when that stuff started, I was so worried that it was going to conclude with, and then she met the special guy who made her have feelings for people. And it like doesn't seem to be going in that direction entirely. So I'm curious if that landed well for people. Because there were also parts of that conversation where I was like, are they getting at they're non-binary, or this is like the beginning of like a trans man arc?
There was like a little bit of egg cracking going on there too.
Because there's a line of like, I don't want to be seen as a woman in some ways. That it was like, okay.
You know, that's one of the reasons that I was like really into that conversation too, is like getting really personal as someone who like had, you know, the gender crisis. Like, I found being a lot more comfortable in sexuality after like becoming more comfortable with gender. And so I was like, oh, okay, it could kind of be going there, because she's like, I just don't want to be seen as a woman. And I'm like, is it entirely just being a woman? Is it societally you don't want to be seen as a woman? Is it like physically you don't want to be a woman kind of stuff? It was a very interesting moment that I feel like we don't really, at this point, the story has not kind of been explored further, but it definitely, her conversation brought up a lot of like really interesting and complicated things about like romance and sexuality that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never sure when reading manga whether people are talking about gender or sexuality, because I think that, well, one, I'm a 30-year-old or 35-year-old, like white American guy existing in like mostly queer circles. And so the conversations that I have about queerness are like pretty educated and like well-defined. Whereas when I'm meeting new characters and often they're like at this age, those things kind of overlap and intermingle in ways that like is probably realistic for an 18-year-old. And so I'm always like skeptical of frankly the things that people say about their experiences in books like this, because I'm in the same that you were like, I don't know, maybe there is some egg cracking happening there, or was it just an ace conversation, right? Like, I'm not sure. I would love to see where that lands, but that's a conversation even that like Miwa is talking about being a woman early on in this book, and it's intermixed with her conversations about sexuality. And I mean, we've obviously like seen her have sex several times, but like I still don't feel like that narrative arc is like totally done for Miwa from the stuff that I've read so far. And I mean, I'll just say this, I plan on reading more. I don't know that I'll read more right away, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I certainly will as well. and the same, I'm very curious obviously about like Miwa and Saiko's arc, but yeah, Ushi, I'm so curious to see what happens with that character, and like maybe they drop the ball entirely, I don't know, but it would be interesting to see how that's in a story that seems very fluent in speaking about queer relationships and like understands like the like a very mature perspective on queerness. I would love to see this story tackle that character in an interesting way as well.
Yeah, I think there is a character later on that is, they don't say specifically if they're bisexual or pansexual or what, but like someone who is and has dated like both men and women. And it is, it's treated very just the same way they treat any of the other queer characters. So I would be very interested to see if Ushi's storyline goes anywhere.
I think also as far as gender stuff with Ushi goes, it's worth pointing out that and I'm in no way an expert on this, but it's something that I know a little bit about, is like language in Japan around gender queerness specifically does not exist in the same way that it does like in America. And not to be like, in Japan it's different, but but specifically, like I have read articles and stuff about that. Like non-binary is in language for the concept of being non-binary is sort of in its infancy in Japan, as from what I've read and stuff. And they have it is like a totally different, similar in many ways, but still like very different set of sort of, what's the word? It's not gender tropes because it's real things. What is it when it's real things?
Stereotypes?
Yes, gender stereotypes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, God, I was struggling. Very different, sometimes similar, but still like completely unique set of gender stereotypes in a lot of ways too. That make, I think, probably make translating stuff about that really hard. And also just, I have yet to see in manga something that a storyline about gender queerness that really looks anything like storylines about gender queerness that I've seen in like American comics or American media.
Yeah, I did wonder about the translation thing, especially because I'm like, this is an English translation of a book that wasn't originally written in English. How much of this is maybe it's clearer or even less clear in the original Japanese? I don't know.
Has anyone read X Gender?
No, but I wanted to. I keep forgetting to like actually pick it up.
I think we should put that on our list because I am curious. I believe that I believe it's written by a Japanese person. So there may be some things for us to learn in that book.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Put it on the list.
I am surprised there are not more of these panels used as meme images. I'm just going to be real.
I feel like I haven't seen them. There's so many that could be. Like, so many good ones.
There's a lot of really good just like expressions or like line drops. Like there's one where when Saeko and Miwa are talking about Miwa's driving, and
Yes, it's
is
so
talking
good.
about what the instructor said to her after her driving test, and it's, you are fundamentally unsuited to driving. In particular, you should prepare for death if you drive on a highway. And I was like, wow, that is it's so funny. It's just the very flat delivery that just cracks me up.
That was one of my all-time fave lines in the thing. I would love to shout out Rika is the peppy cat
I love
face
her.
girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to shout out the chapter where Rika is sort of waxing poetic about her friends and their relationship and like the things that she's doing to try and bring them together. And then we get to the end of that chapter and she's saying all of this in the middle of having sex with some guy.
Yes, so
It's
good.
like, can you please
It's
stop
so
giving
good.
speeches while we're having sex?
We're in the middle of having sex.
Gosh, yeah. It's such a funny book. Like this, I wasn't expecting to like laugh out loud as much as I did reading this book, which I don't know. It's some I really love that it can be all these different things. Like it can be very sweet and insightful and also be like very stupid and silly at the same time. So that's the first 2 volumes and change of How to Be a Relationship by Tamifull. I would recommend giving it a read if this sounded interesting. For some further reading, the author of this book is quite mysterious online. So How to Be a Relationship started as a doujinshi. It started as a self-published comic that was made to sell at comic expos and eventually was picked up by a publisher. It actually ended its run in Japan earlier this year. There's still 1 volume left to be published 2 volumes left to be published in English as of this recording. So you can get most of the book as it is right now. The only other thing like professionally published work I found from this author is called 28 Ways to Write a Long-Running Series with Ease, which is at the end of each volume of this, like the collected volumes of this book, there's little like self-insert comics of the author's like little bunny character that she uses to represent herself, kind of talking about the process of writing this comic. This 28 Ways to Write a Long-Running Series is narrated by that same like version of the author's character. It's not translated yet, but hopefully it will be eventually. There's also like other doujinshis that are not officially translated, but you can find translations online if you're interested. So in lieu of recommending any of those things that you may or may not be able to read, I just want to shout out a couple of other Yuri comics that I think are similar in terms of being very sweet and, interested in characters and also being very hot. Both of these lean more towards smuttiness than How to Be a Relationship, but just to quickly mention them. One is Asumi-chan is interested in lesbian brothels, which is about a girl who had a crush on another girl in like as a child, and she learns that she's now in college, and she learns that this girl is now working in a brothel. So she starts visiting brothels to try to reunite with her and her adventures there. It's by a writer named Kuro Itsuki. Obviously, that one leans a lot more towards sex. The other one is called My Cute Little Kitten, which this also started as a doujinshi, and then was eventually picked up by 7 Seas for publication. This is by Milk Morinaga, and this is a story about 2 roommates. They were roommates. These 2 women who are living together, and one finds a sick kitten, and brings it in, like nurses it back to health, and decides that she doesn't want to give it up, even though their apartment doesn't allow cats. And so she says, it's okay, I'll move out, I'll get my own apartment, and then I can take care of this cat. And that makes the other roommate suddenly realize, like, wait, I don't want you to leave because I'm in love with you. And so confesses, and they decide to get a new apartment together where they can be in love and have a kitten and have lots of hot sex. So both of those are good, both are hot, both are way more explicit than How to Be a Relationship, but they remind me of a similar sort of mix of sweetness and spiciness. And I know, Matt, you had another manga to recommend.
Yeah. While I was reading How to Be a Relationship, I also picked up the first volume of a book called Loverboy. It's a manhwa, a Korean manga. I picked it up just randomly at Barnes & Noble. Like a new fancy Barnes & Noble opened up in a mall near us, and I just saw it on the shelf. And I want to say up front, it has way more problems than How to Be a Relationship. Like... we have joked about toxic yaoi, and I said to you all yesterday, it's the most toxic yaoi. But I became really attached to the characters in this book, and I think that is not always a guarantee even in some yaoi and BL that I've enjoyed, I have not necessarily always been attached to the characters. Gonna jump right into some problems immediately. It is an age gap romance. They are adults, to be clear. It is the story of these two men. One at the beginning is like 28, and he sees again this 20-year-old guy that he grew up with, that he grew up thinking of as more like a little brother. They like lived in the same apartment complex, and like when the younger guy was 3 years old, he proposed to the older guy, and it was like seen as this cute thing, but he's been obsessed with him like his whole life. He's like the only person he's ever loved, and it's them as adults dealing with this conflict. And it is there is a lot of sex in this book, and they treat each other really poorly. I just want to be like so clear. But it was the whole time I'm reading this, I'm thinking about how do we relationship, and just like I think despite how terrible they're treating each other, how much less they communicate than Miwa and Saeko, the thing that I was into about it was how much it still felt like a realistic portrayal of a relationship. Like Miwa and Saeko are just more well-adjusted people. In the case of Loverboy, both of these characters are just so fundamentally traumatized and taking that out on each other. And I don't know if that sounds interesting. It might be an interesting follow-up. It's definitely going to have a lot of contrast to this book, but at least for me, they felt similar in that like I was attached to the characters in really similar ways.
Cool. Anybody else have other further reading?
I do not. I unfortunately did not crack open any of my stack of romance manga that I picked up at Barnes & Noble the other day.
There's always more time.
I'm going to shout out something. It hasn't had an official licensed English translation, so go searching for it under your own discretion. This is by a mangaka who just goes by Roji, mononym, and it's called Nani Sora Aikayo, which is like, what is this love anyway? I think something like that. And this author also has one that is sort of a prequel to that called Ao to Midori. Both of those deal with talking about what it means to have feelings in ways that I think resonate a lot with what we talked about here today. But Nani Sore Aikayo has it a lot more, and in a really interesting, weird way, because the whole thing is about these two guys going, so what are we? And they never put a label on it, really. There is a particular kind of like interrogation of what it means to have feelings that is something that I'm always really interested in, and I think sort of resonates with this stuff. If you want something by this author that I also really enjoyed that has had an official translation, there's one called Countdown to Yes, and also one called All About My Two Dads, which I haven't read yet, but it does exist and it has been translated.
Amazing. Well, with that then, that's going to bring us to the end. In Sequence is, of course, a member of the Worst Garbage Podcast Network, which you can find at theworstgarbage.online. I have been your host for this week, Robin. You can find me on Blue Sky at Robin Bombus. Panelists, where can folks find you?
You can find me at matthorton.live. That'll have links to every other place you can find me on the internet, including, I think I mentioned on an episode that's going to come out the first day that the show comes out that we had, Alex and I were working on a video about a game, like a little puzzle game that also happened to be about unionizing, and that came out today.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you'll find links to the YouTube on matthorton.live.
I've compiled all of my various presences on the internet on plottwists.card.co.
You can find me on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Humble Goat. And you can find the art that I do, including our podcast cover art, at scoutwilkinson.myportfolio.com.
Great. Well, thanks as always for listening. Like and subscribe.
Smash that like button
or whatever.
We are on YouTube.
Like button.
Oh, are we on? I guess we are. Huh?
Yeah.
And
we're going to be on YouTube.
Also importantly, remember to support your local library. They need you so bad. And in lieu of that, your local comic shop would also appreciate it. Either way, support the good people who bring comics into your life. And we'll see you next time in 2 weeks.
TWG, the worst garbage.